Okay, so some of you have actually asked me to elaborate on this poem. My notes look absolutely mental. I've just gone over it a few times trying to work this strange way of communicating with you guys. I know it's not ideal. I'm hopefully getting a camera where it will be a bit more focused and less shaky of me just holding a phone up. So anyway, this was just for a few of you. If you want to hit the top boundaries or if you want to just understand this poem a little bit better, that's why I'm putting out this video. Let me know if it helps you. If it does, I'll keep doing them. If not, I will just keep to Mr. Bruff. I'm not bothered. So anyway, we can start first of all with the poet. Robert Browning, he obviously looks a little bit crazy himself, but that would be a very accurate judgment to make. He did actually enjoy making a lot of his poems and literature actually on the morbid, the twisted, and the psychological states of human beings. Usually the more twisted psychological states, such as murderers, psychopaths, sociopaths. So he was a pretty dark, or he clearly was seduced by the dark nature, I suppose, of literature. Why is that relevant? Why do we need to know that? Well, this kind of desire to make his literature like this really does reflect the fact of the Victorian age. So that's something to note. If you guys can remember, Christmas Carol study, what was the Victorian era really popular for in literature? It was really popular for the birth of a Gothic genre. So you could put Gothic genre. It's quite typical. The poem itself is a dramatic monologue, that meaning that it is just essentially a telling of a story. It is a fictional character, as far as we know. We don't know. Mr. Browning was never convicted of strangling anyone with blonde hair, anything like that. We can only kind of create theories, as we do with lots of old pieces of literature. The speaker is obviously a little bit deranged, if you guys have not worked that out already. The second theory is that he's not only deranged, but he's a mercy killer. Mercy killer means that you have killed them by maybe the permission of the person because they don't want to be alive anymore, or maybe we could question whether or not he believed it was him giving her mercy, but whether she felt the same is a little bit different. So the idea of mercy killer, he's like freeing this girl of whatever problems that she might be having or facing. Potentially in the Victorian era, you could come up with theories such as, she maybe she felt restricted in society, she wanted to free herself from that, potentially. Maybe you want to make notes on that. So we look at the title now. So Porphyria's lover, what's it called? Possessive apostrophe. So the possessive apostrophe already kind of suggests things such as obsession, possession. The themes are going to be presented within the poem. The poem is in one big block verse, maybe suggesting like his continuous thought patterns. You could make a note on that, actually. That'd be a structural comment. So we could say one block verse. It could show how he is impulsive because he doesn't stop to think. He's not stopping in verses. He's not organised. If he's not organised, in other words, you're spontaneous. Okay, so you could lead to believe that this spontaneous killing, suggests that he is, not got a very sound mind, a little bit crazy, delirious or delusional. Okay, so obviously you can see it's quite difficult to imagine one block verse that can come to the fact he's delusional. But if you go through kind of all these process of thought, which is what you get your marks for, which is creative thinking. So one block verse, because it's one big block, it's not organised. The big block kind of is like, it's just put onto the page, so it suggests that he's impulsive, or it suggests that he hasn't organised his poem of speech, his dramatic monologue. So he's spontaneous, he just does things, just boom, doesn't really think about them. Therefore, suggesting if you're not really thinking about anything, you could link to the fact that he's a bit delusional, as a delusional state. So anyway, we start with a structural analysis. This is beautifully structured, this poem. The varying of lines, the way that one's here, one's there, one's there, and it's really regimented. You could say that these uneven lines suggests his uneven that's once again structure. I'm just going to put structure as a little subheading in my anthology. So structure, please make it neater than that. So also the irregular line length, that could connote the fact that he is irregular. It literally says it in the word. Could suggest that he is unpredictable. Maybe. Okay, if you want to suggest that. So the rain set early in tonight. The sullen wind was soon awake. It tore the elm tops down for spite and did its worst to vex the lake. Okay, so here we have a big lump example of pathetic fallacy. I abbreviated that. The pathetic fallacy here, if we think about rain, wind, it's obviously not positive imagery. So it suggests that his mood, because it's pathetic fallacy, his mood is quite dark. I've put here that you can connect this darkness, the introduction of the darkness straight away. The same way actually in A Christmas Carol when they introduce a huge amount of pathetic fallacy to suggest this gothic kind of atmosphere. The same way that was very popular in the Victorian era. So you could make that AO3 link. That'd be good. So the rain set early into night. The sun and wind was soon awake. We've got the idea of the... not only the depressing kind of tone, but it's kind of highlighted by the idea of set, sullen, and soon, the use of sibilance. So sibilance is just like alliteration with similar letters in one sentence. However, it is the S, sh, and z sounding, okay? So the sibilance here creates a sinister tone. You can kind of hear it. It doesn't sound very pleasant when you read out the line. The rain set early in the tonight and the sullen wind was soon awake. It makes it seem quite sinister tone, but also slow paced. Almost like he's calculating something, maybe, you could argue. Now, the idea of, pathos being brought by the fact that, if we are using this pathetic fallacy, it suggested that this man, this narrator, this poet, narrator, is miserable. He's not happy. Usually humans, as you and I, would hopefully react to someone being sad. We'd feel, sorry for them. However, what's stopping us here from feeling sorry for this person is the use of sibilance, I believe. So this sinister tone that slows down our pace, it kind of distracts us from the idea of this guy maybe being sad. It takes away kind of our ability to feel sorry for him. Whether Robert Browning did that on purpose because that's how, maybe you could say as a high ability student, you could say that the same way we struggle to feel sympathy for this person is the same reason or the same things that disturbed this narrator and the reason why he committed the sins that he did. Maybe he felt like people neglected him, people overlooked his sadness, maybe. So it tore down the elm tops. So this is the wind still. Tore down the elm tops and it did its worst to vex, to anger the lake. If we think about the wind and elm tops, so the wind's personifying the narrator, and the elm tops and things like the lake personifying this female, we get the idea of dominance. Yeah. So the weather is angry, it's aggressive. It shows imbalance. Okay, the fact that there's this impulsivity of the wind, like tearing down elm tops and angering the lake. It shows like lack of control within emotions. When someone feels angry, they lose all control, suggesting that this narrator has no control, suggesting that he will therefore potentially foreshadowing that he's going to do something impulsive and wrong. So maybe this narrator, which is portrayed even through this possessive apostrophe, this narrator clearly likes to control things that are weaker than him. So this wind is tearing down these elm tops, these trees. The wind is also angering this beautiful lake. The same way the female could connote the delicacy of the elm tops, or it could connote the beauty and the calmness that you probably link with lake. Yeah. So you have the juxtaposition of positive imagery and negative emotions. or verbs. So I listen with heart fit to break. He's listening, so he's obviously desperate for something to happen. He's obviously waiting for someone to come through the door. And then what happens? Here she comes. She glided in. So when glided in Porphyria. So the fact she glided, it sounds a little bit creepy to me, but you'd be right to think that as well if you were thinking that too. So you could link it to the idea of the AO3, which is the gothic genre, because to me, although it sounds also a bit creepy, almost sexual, that she's gliding in to his kind of dorm or whatever. You could also connect it to ghost-like imagery, in my view, could foreshadow the fact that she is going to die, or that he already sees her as dead, so therefore he's taking away the emotion that would require you to kill someone because he's already acknowledged her as dead. Yeah? So you could... That was quite good, actually. I just came up with that one. So maybe you could link the fact that he... this ghost-like appearance with him condoning this killing. I like that. Condoning. Anyway. Condoning killing. Okay. She shut the door cold out. She shut the cold out and the storm. So this female, whatever she means to this guy, which has not been made clear, whether it's actually sentimental and he actually cares for her, which I doubt, because this guy seems pretty emotionally detached, or lack of control within his emotion to know whatever he wants. Whatever she is, she shut the cold out and the storm. So whatever she is, for certain, we know that she is obviously someone who is capable of shutting out the negativity, this coldness, this storm. Once again, linking it back to that pathetic fallacy. The storm being his emotions. She's shutting that out, okay? She kneeled and made the cheerless grate blaze up and all the cottage warm. So she's lighting that fire. And the fact that she kneeled and he recognised that, I linked to the sign of dominance. Once again, that would be AO3. He's liking the fact that she's obviously, I don't know whether he just sees it or he's exaggerating it, but he obviously likes the way that she's quite submissive, meaning that she accepts her status as being lower than him as a male. Which done, she rose, and from her withdrew the dripping cloak and shawl. These use of commas, the same way the sibilance up here, really keeps the pace very steady and very slow, which is a bit weird, just because it's like he's almost speculating what to do, or he's watching from afar and just kind of plotting and planning. So you could connect that to him kind of, coming up with some sort of calculated plan. Yes. So withdrew the dripping cloak and shawl. So once again, I'm just going to go back to the idea, because it is a theory of this sexual imagery. So she glided in Porphyria. She had a dripping cloak and shawl. So yeah, I'm just make you think about that. I might maybe I'll cut a different colour pen for that type of imagery. So you got glided, dripping cloak. Shawl you could see is quite sexual, because it's something which could potentially show your skin, which in those days in a religious era, it was like, oh my God, your skin, and especially your shoulder. If you go into churches, even now in strict Catholic countries, you have to cover up your shoulders. But she withdrew it, linking to the fact that she could potentially, of sexual promiscuity, meaning to be sexual. She obviously, or could seem to be a prostitute, maybe. That is a theory, that she could be a woman of the night. He could have hired her to come into the house, or we could link back to the idea that she is there to allow him to kill her, maybe. But I'm not sure if I'm all for that theory. It's a good one to recognise in your writing, though. And, all these. You should know it. It's polysyndeton. It could show his excitement. It could show his childlike nature, his spontaneous nature. Maybe. That's kind of the emotions I link with that. I made her smooth white shoulder bare. Once again, it's making a white shoulder bare. This orange colour is kind of more in the sexual imagery. White to show purity. So whoever this is, he desires it. She obviously has something which he does not. If you link to the fact that he is this storm and she's the white, you get this whole contrast of him being the dark nature and her being the positive. And stooping made my cheek lie there and spread over her. There is the idea here as well, sorry, with the commas and the punctuation. And last she sat down by my side. He's almost irritated by the fact that she took so long. She was blazing up the cottage, taking off her shoulder. And finally, she sat down by my side. These two uses of the commas here on line 14, it emphasizes the last. So it shows maybe he's oh, you just took so long to give me attention. Very needy man. Obviously very possessive. Okay, and spread over all her yellow hair, murmuring how she loved me. This verb murmuring is interesting because if you murmur, you're not saying it very clearly, suggesting that he's upset by the fact that she's not speaking clearly and not saying "I love you" very clearly. She's murmuring it, so he's not satisfied. You can link that as well. A nice quote to attach that to is this punctuation, because he's obviously not satisfied with her. He's saying, "Oh, at last she finally loved me," and here she's saying, "Oh, she's now murmuring she loved me." He's not convinced. Which is why my theory, I believe that she's not there to be killed. He's just there to kill her. Or he is ready to kill her. Because she obviously is trying very hard to please him, but he's not recognising it. Remember how she loved me. Caesura obviously shows that this fact upsets him. It might be one of the main factors, potentially, as to why he kills her. She too weak, AO3. Link it to the fact that she's a feeble little female. For all her heart's endeavour to set its struggling passion free. Notice how he starts to say it's. I think he's still speaking about her. He's dehumanizing. Oh, B. Okay. Setting it struggling passion free. So obviously he believes, maybe you could link that to AO3, because why might she be this thing that's struggling? Maybe she's struggling in the Victorian era. Maybe she's actually told this person that she is struggling and that's why she's here to be killed. Maybe. Or is that he, in his mind, his twisted mind, which I believe more, is that he believes that this passion, this desire, he wants to put to an end. Maybe he's jealous of it, he's envious of it. Maybe he doesn't like the fact that this passion is being shared with other men, especially if she is a prostitute. So you can make your own annotations on that. Another thing which I kind of brushed over, but I want to go back to suggest his disturbed mind, is the use of inversion. There's line 6. So inversion is spelled INVERSION. So instead of saying Porphyria glided in to my house, it says when glided in Porphyria. Whenever you jumble up like a sentence like this, almost in the same way that Yoda does quite a bit, it's called inversion. So you shuffle around the words. If we're linking this to a purpose, which is where the AO2 marks would go, it could link to the fact of him having quite a disturbed mind and not being able to communicate his own ideas and understanding of the situation properly in a normal way. So you could link this inversion to the fact that he's a bit of a crazy man. Anyway, sorry for that little detour. From Pride and Vain Attire. So he believes that whatever he's going to do, he's about to kill her, but whatever he's going to do, he's going to set her free from all these struggling passions, which maybe shows a passion to be free or passion to be someone which can't be because of the Victorian era. He's going to set her free from pride, which I don't understand why that's a problem, having pride in yourself, and to also to set her free from these vainer ties. I link this to the idea of her being a prostitute. I suppose that's, yeah. Also to spread overall. Anyway, so vainer ties, maybe she has these kind of obsessive ties with other men, maybe, and he doesn't like it. Once again linked to the fact that he wants her to be his. And give herself to me forever. Give herself to me forever. He's deciding for her. He's like, nope, you're going to be mine. Forever. Obviously, that's a hyperbole. Shows he's irrational. not able to think in a logical sense. He just thinks in quite a childlike way. Say we're like a child, like when they want something, it's, you know, if you try and take it away from them, they start crying, they throw their toys out the pram, etc. It's the same kind of thing. He wants her forever, and he's going to make it happen. Otherwise, he's going to get really angry. It's the same way. All right. But passion sometimes would prevail, nor tonight's gay feast. There's a disturbing image of this, gay meaning happy, not the gay, which you guys are probably thinking of. The idea that he can even use gay feast, he's calling this a gay feast, a happy feast, in the context of him about to murder her. Of course, that's a bit disturbing. But sure, I looked up at her eyes. So something about the eyes kind of make him want to act out. If you could think about the symbolism of eyes, maybe it's, I don't know, it could be like almost the soul. You could symbolize it with the soul. With the soul, and maybe how he desires it, how he desires to overtake her soul. If you think about how it symbolizes with the soul, if you know anything about, like in Cyprus, there's like the eye, I've forgotten exactly what it's called, but that symbolizes the soul and a spiritual nature of people. So it could link to how he wants to overtake her. Once again, it's about creative thinking, not about just complaining about metaphorical meaning and how far-fetched they can be. I know they can be quite crazy. Right, so we get the volta. That is a Latin word, volta. Okay, it means the conclusion. Not conclusion as such, but more of like the eureka moment. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I've decided. So he says, happy and proud. So he's happy that he's now looking at her. At last I knew Porphyria worshipped me. Okay, worship me, jeez. It's like he desires to be worshipped just like God. Yeah, he wants to be idolized, which back in the day would be blaspheme. I idolized, linked to blaspheme. Okay, surprised me, my heart swell, and still it grew. I'm just gonna allow you to think about why this is sexual, but there is sexual imagery throughout, suggesting and linking back to the theory that she is a prostitute, or the fact that he is. I'll write it here. So the sexual imagery. It could suggest that he only desires objectifying her, which means like seeing her only as an object. Yeah. While I debated what to do. Okay, so it's like he's kind of treating it as though it's like just a simple kind of thought he needs to process, that what should I do? Should I kill her? Should I not? So it's obviously a bit weird that he's still not decided. It's very impulsive. That you can link that back to the block verse that we decided down here could suggest impulsivity even. While I debated what to do, the moment she was mine, the repetition of the possessive pronoun mine, it suggests obviously the obsessiveness, whether it is mind of her being his. Fair, obviously she's a good person, linking to the fact that also he said that she had a white shoulder. She's obviously something which he desires. Maybe he desires goodness in her, and he believes by killing her he'll be able to have some of that, which is quite a typical trait of sociopaths, almost desiring something they can't have. Perfectly pure and good, I found a thing to do, and all her hair. Okay, the enjambment like kind of makes that hair hang on the end to say whether this is the key focus of his chosen weapon. In one long yellow string, he wound 3 times to her little throat. AO3 there has got a little throat. The adjective suggests that she is feeble. She's only a little lady. The rhyming couplet wound around. It makes you focus on this key point. It's obviously something which is significant to him. And strangled her. The caesura here. Caesura, if you remember, is Caesura, Latin or Greek, I think. I think it might be Greek. Strangled her. So the caesura makes you focus on the fact that he stopped there. Maybe because he felt regret. Maybe because he enjoyed it. You could debate that. No pain felt she. What did I tell you that was when you twist around a sentence? He didn't say she didn't feel any pain. No pain felt she, if you remember over there. Told you what it was. It's inversion. No pain felt she. I'm quite sure she felt no pain. he has no empathy. It's not like he's actually said, obviously it takes, if you're strangling someone, I think it takes like almost 5 minutes to properly kill them off. So the fact that he's said, no, she didn't feel any pain. There's no way in him knowing it. She 100% did feel pain, especially if you're using her own hair to strangle her. I'm quite sure she felt no pain. The repetition suggests that he is reassuring himself. He really lacks empathy. He's not able to grasp the fact that she would have felt pain. As a shut bud that holds a bee, I warily opened her lids again, laughed to the blue eyes without strain. So the eyes, which is visual, these blue eyes are laughing. When you mix senses up, so you've got the visual imagery, auditory, because that's what you can hear. When you mix up senses, it's called synesthesia. SYN. AESTHESIA. Synesthesia is the mixing up of senses. The same way, linking to the inversion, which we saw here, it kind of is the same purpose. It's showing the mixture of what is real, disturbed mind, things that are quite surreal to him. He views just normal reality in a very unreal way, or surreal way. Unreal. About her neck, her cheeks once more blush bright beneath my burning kiss. Okay, you've got the oxymoron of burning kiss to suggest the two different people. I propped her head up as before. The way that he's propping her up, it kind of makes her seem almost like a china doll, something which is on his mantelpiece almost. If you know My Lost Duchess, it kind of links quite a lot with Robert Browning's typical poem of that, where he put her up on a photo on his wall, or a painting on his wall. But for this poem anyway, I propped her up. The verb propped makes it seem like, literally the word prop is just something which is an asset, is something which is material, shows that he only sees her as like something which he wants to control, which he wants to display. Yeah, not necessarily to talk. He doesn't like her as a human being, likes her as an object. Only this time my shoulder bore. So he put her head on his shoulder this time when he kills her. So he's now asserting dominance. If you remember before, this is a structural comment. It is a line 19. So line 19, you can see that she put his head there. So she was trying to comfort him, but then he was like, after he killed her, he was like, no, no, no. Now it's me who's going to be the dominant one. You're lying on my shoulder. The smiley, rosy little head, once again little, liking the fact that she's powerless, loving that power play, linking to AO3, powerless. So glad it has utmost will, and so it's scorned once as it fled, and its love as I'm gained instead. So it. He's now calling her it, once again dehumanizing. And he genuinely believes that this is all good news. He says that he's doing it for her utmost will. He's gained instead as well. So it's all positive change to him. There's nothing negative about it. He's like, finally I killed her. So positive change. Huge sense of irony, because it's obviously not a positive change at all. But he's seeing it as positive, suggesting his crazy mind. Her darling one wish would be heard. It definitely wasn't her wish, or maybe if it was a Mersing killer, you could link it to a bit more of an innocent kind of view that she was there to be killed. So one wish would be heard. Maybe they had a deal. Maybe she knew he was a bit of a crazy man, and she went to him and just said, look, can you just kill me? I don't believe it, though. I'm a bit suspicious, thinking that he is probably just one of the many men that she visits. However, it's up to you. Okay, so... and all night long we have not stirred, and yet God has not said a word. This rhyming couplet shows like the finality of the death. The fact he just tied a knot in his murder. He's like, he feels like satisfied. So satisfied, because there's like a satisfying ending. And yet God has not said a word. He's almost mocking him. There's almost like a mocking tone. The fact that he said, oh, well, God, you're not really doing anything, are you? Because in the Victorian era, there was obviously the question of whether God actually was existing. Because there was a very small population of people that would primarily believe in science over religion. They were obviously seen as quite atypical unorthodox, sinful people. But it's kind of played at here because he said, yet God hasn't said a word. He's killed someone and he's like, but where's my punishment? It seems like I've got away with it. He enjoys the fact that he's decided on God's work and he's taken that power away from God. Okay, so you could link it with that. I hope